Imagine a land where the dead whispered secrets to the living, where one man's vision could shatter 1,000-year-old faith, and where a river's annual gift shaped the destiny of empires. In the shadow of monuments that have outlasted civilizations, a pharaoh once dared to rewrite the gods themselves. But what if the greatest threat to Egypt wasn't invaders from across the sea, but the ambitions burning within its own heart? This is not just the story of pyramids and pharaohs. It is the epic of a civilization that refused to die. For over 5,000 years, the Nile has been Egypt's lifeblood, a ribbon of green defiance against the Sahara's embrace. Every year, its floods brought not destruction, but renewal, rich black silt that turned desert into farmland capable of feeding millions. This predictable rhythm fostered something extraordinary, a society where stability bred innovation. Farmers tilled fields, while scribes recorded harvests in elegant hieroglyphs. Artisans crafted jewelry from Nubian gold and turquoise, while priests maintained cosmic order, or ma'at. Pharaohs, seen as living gods, bridged the human and divine. Unlike the chaotic city-states of Mesopotamia, Egypt's geography, deserts as natural fortresses, the Nile as a highway, encouraged unity. Upper and Lower Egypt merged under Narmer around 3100 BCE, creating one of history's first nations. Yet this world was no utopia. Daily life meant back-breaking labor under the sun, seasonal famines when the floods failed, and a rigid hierarchy where peasants supported the elite. Women, however, enjoyed unusual rights for the era owning property, initiating divorce, reflecting a culture where balance mattered. Historians debate how much this stability masked underlying tensions, but one truth endures. The Nile didn't just sustain Egypt, it defined its soul. By the Old Kingdom c. 2686–2081 BCE, pharaohs like Djoser and Khufu channeled this wealth into eternal monuments. The Great Pyramid wasn't built by slaves, a persistent myth debunked by worker villages and pay records, but by organized, proud Egyptians during the flood season. These structures proclaimed divine kingship and engineering genius, aligning with the sun god Ra. But central power bred fragility. When droughts struck in the late Old Kingdom, local nomarchs, governors, seized control, ushering in the First Intermediate Period, a time of division historians once called dark, but which recent evidence shows as a vibrant era of local innovation and literature. Reunification under Mentuhotep II in the Middle Kingdom brought a cultural renaissance, more accessible art, expanded trade, and fortresses securing borders. The New Kingdom, c. 50–170 BCE, marked Egypt's imperial peak, expelling the Hyksos invaders. Foreign rulers who introduced chariots and bronze weapons ignited expansion. Thutmose III, the Napoleon of Egypt, led campaigns into the Levant, creating an empire rich in tribute. Yet power invited overreach. No pharaoh embodied this more than Ramses II. At the Battle of Kadesh, c. 2074 BCE, he faced the Hittite Empire in history's first well-documented large-scale clash, thousands of chariots thundering across the Orontes. Egyptian records boast a glorious victory, but evidence suggests a stalemate. One of history's boldest experiments came from Akhenaten, c. 1353–1336 BCE. Rejecting the powerful Amun priesthood, he elevated the Aten sun disk as the sole god, moved the capital to Amarna, and promoted a more naturalistic art style, showing his family intimately. Was this genuine monotheism, a political power grab against priests, or both? His revolution disrupted temples, economy, and tradition. After his death, successors like Tutankhamun restored the old ways, erasing Akhenaten as the enemy. This Amarna period fascinates because it reveals cracks in the divine order, proof that even god-kings faced limits. Egypt endured invasions, Libyans, Nubians, Assyrians, Persians. Alexander the Great's arrival in 332 BCE brought Hellenistic rule under the Ptolemies. Cleopatra VII, the last independent pharaoh, wasn't the seductive stereotype of later Roman propaganda. A shrewd polyglot ruler, she allied with Caesar and Antony to preserve Egyptian autonomy amid Rome's civil wars. Her suicide in 30 BCE ended pharaonic Egypt, but her legacy as a capable stateswoman endures. Myths of beauty obscure her real fight for survival. Roman, Byzantine, Arab, Ottoman, and British rule followed, each layering new influences while the Nile's rhythm persisted. The 19th century brought Muhammad Ali Pasha, an Albanian Ottoman officer who seized power after Napoleon's brief invasion. He modernized ruthlessly, conscript armies, factories, cotton exports, and education missions to Europe. Called the father of modern Egypt, his centralization laid foundations for independence, but at the cost of peasant hardship. British occupation 1882 onward exploited resources, fueling nationalism. Gamal Abdel Nasser's 1952 revolution and 1956 Suez Canal nationalization defied empires. Facing invasion by Britain, France, and Israel, Nasser's defiance, backed by global pressure, made him an Arab hero, funding the Aswan Dam and asserting sovereignty. It marked the end of European colonial dominance in the region. The 2011 Arab Spring ousted Hosni Mubarak, echoing millennia of uprisings against perceived tyranny. But stability remains elusive under military-influenced rule. Today, Egypt's ancient heritage drives tourism and identity, while the Nile faces modern threats like climate change and dams upstream. Its story reminds us civilizations rise through unity and innovation, fracture under inequality or overambition, yet their echoes shape global culture. Egypt teaches that no empire is eternal, yet ideas, resilience, and the human quest for meaning outlast stone. In a world still wrestling with power, faith, and the environment, the Nile's children continue writing their chapter. What legacy will we leave when our monuments crumble? The river flows on,